Yeah, I'm about to go. And I'm going to share it to the group.
Let me share it to my page. Group. I have a couple groups too. I'm gonna share it in.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I am super excited to be interviewing Coach Rocky. Jeanille Rockett is the founder of Conquer Your Ish and All Year EDU, where she helps leaders conquer their ish with clarity and purpose without sacrificing performance, people, or joy. With expertise in leadership development, marketing, content strategy, and AI, Rocky has spent the last 4 years working behind the scenes of multiple speakers brands, helping them scale to 6 and 7 figures. After grossing 6 figures year after year through her consulting firm, she made the bold decision to put her own speaking business first, delivering transformational talks while also working with schools, organizations, and corporations on leadership development, culture resets, communication strategies, student leadership development, and parent engagement. And when she's not shifting leaders and communities, she's unapologetically a cookie monster who never turns down a good cookie. And so with that, Rocky, first off, before we get into the deep stuff, I got to ask you. I like sweets myself. So what's your favorite type of cookie?
Oh, you can't go wrong with a chocolate chip, a good chocolate chip cookie. But I love these salted caramel chocolate chip cookies. They're so good. So that will probably be my top two favorite cookies.
Okay, me myself, I like sugar cookies, in
Mm.
particular butter sugar. So I was just kind of curious with that.
Oh, do you like them with lemon?
No, mm-mm.
Okay. See, if you would have said lemon, I'm like, oh, we here.
Nah, not at all. I like them. I don't know. I like that buttery taste to them. It's
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. That makes sense.
That's kind of my thing. And so, Rocky, tell us a little bit more about yourself. How did you get into the speaking and consulting industry?
Well, I got my first corporate job at 16. I lied about my age. I was like, let me get into corporate. That's where the big money is. And then I became a corporate trainer in 2013. And so I've worked with companies like Chase, Bank of America, Geico. I've worked with the National Insurance Crime Bureau, and just doing corporate training, whether it was with leaders, with teams. And that's where my speaking business really started. So in 2014 is when I got into entrepreneurship. And then from there, I've just been speaking sort of like a side gig while building out my consulting firm. So, doing conferences, events, talking about marketing, content, AI, leadership. And I was just like, you know what? It's time for me to do my own thing. It's time for me to really put the speaking part of my business to the forefront. And I that's when I really started to realize like, man, I really love this. I love speaking. I was one of those kids that, most likely to get in trouble for talking too much. Now what I do, I talk too much. So that's how I got
Excellent.
started.
Okay, okay. And so what is your, I guess your niche, so to speak? Like what is your
Yeah.
target market
So
when it
my
comes to
target
speaking?
audience definitely is primarily corporate. So corporate leaders, executives, and then I go into the corporate team space. And so I primarily focus on leadership and trust, culture and engagement, and then of course mental health. And so those three areas are my three topics that I focus on. But really, it's just people. I found that people perform better when they feel better.
Mm,
And when they feel better, you're at your company, you see your productivity go up, you see performance go up, and people just feel empowered to even make those type of entrepreneurial decisions for the company. They don't always have to go back to you and say, I need your thoughts or help on this particular thing. they start to feel empowered. So the core of what I do is really just people management and people focused.
Okay. I run into a lot of speakers that are just like, hey, I want to speak in the corporate market and how
Mhm.
can I go about it? I'm hearing that they're making all this money. They're getting
Yes.
$25,000 a gig for a keynote or whatever else for the corporate market. And
Mhm.
so what would you recommend a speaker do, in order
Yeah.
if they want to get their foot in the door with the corporate market?
First off, let me just say this, y'all. You don't make 25,000, 10,000 your first few corporate gigs. Like mostly the people who have the money, they really don't know you. They don't see you on social media like they see some of these speakers where they're like really big and they have the marketing, they have the content, they have all these things. A corporate decision maker is not on your Instagram trying to see you give a motivational reel. They're not looking for that. So I
Mm,
want to like dispel that truth. They're not looking to see how popular you are on social media. What they are looking for is that you are a speaker, like you actually do the work. You're a consultant, not just someone who motivates, but someone who inspires their people to take action and actually perform better, be more productive. And so you want to make sure you're showcasing that. I like to do it on LinkedIn as well as YouTube. And then I would also say if you're going into the corporate market, just be patient because corporate does not, just like with education, corporate doesn't turn over so fast. I could talk to someone today and they won't make a decision until January or February about the thing. But it is important that you understand their cycles of when their budgets open up. Typically for corporate, that's going to be February, March, July, August. They don't always run on a January to January cycle like most school districts do. And well, just like school districts, they don't always run like that too. And so just knowing that, and then also understanding what it is you can help them with. If it's
mm,
engagement, what is the engagement part? Like I can help your leaders be more engaged. No, what does that look like? Some of the things I talk about is if you have high PTO and sick time, usually after my talk, that decreases. Like they want to hear the data, the stats,
yeah.
because for a corporation, they care about the numbers. So I would say those are probably some of the things I would have in place before I really start to pitch, and just patience. If I didn't mention that, patience.
Good stuff right there. As far as um, impacting their bottom line. That's what they
Yes.
want. And I think that's with any organization, whether you're in corporate or you're in education. Now, in education, it's not always going to be about the
Bottom
money that's
line.
made per se, but you might help them save money,
Yep.
help them with their budget or help them with productivity in education.
Hmm.
And so I love that you brought it up because a lot of times speakers feel like it's just about inspiration and everything else,
Mm.
but you got to bring more than that. You have
You
to bring
definitely
more
do.
than that. And
And
so,
for
yeah,
educators too, if you're working with students, what are you bringing to the table when it comes to attendance, behavior,
exactly.
their course performance? And then if you're working with professional development with those educators, burnout is a big topic always. Productivity is
Mhm.
a big topic always. So really speaking to their bottom line and knowing the language of your audience.
Exactly. Man, you're dropping nuggets today, knowing the language. And this is all stuff that I think any person that is experienced in this field, this is stuff that we try to communicate a lot of
Mhm.
times, speaking the language, impacting the bottom line, providing something tangible,
Yes.
for these organizations. And so just that's all just really good stuff, great wisdom right there. And so,
Yeah.
Rocky, tell us a little bit more about, I know you say you did the consulting and everything, and then you stepped into the speaker realm. And so tell us a little bit more about that. Like, what are some unique experiences that you've had
Oh
with that?
boy. I I think my this is where I knew I was not for students, especially large assemblies. Some of y'all do large assemblies and I love y'all. It's amazing. But I did my first I did three assemblies. I will never forget. It was December of 2023. I did three assemblies back to back with over like 200 kids. And I just remember feeling so overwhelmed. It was so much going on. And I was just, at one point, the mama came out in me. I was like, now listen, y'all. And I had to say to myself, okay, I can't do this. But then the next year, they still brought me back in. The next year, we did small workshops, and it was less than 30 kids in these small workshops that I did. And it was so intimate, it was so impactful. These kids had a really great experience. And I said, this is it. This is where I know I perform best. And I think going through the process of figuring out what works as a speaker and what doesn't work as a speaker is so important because a lot of times we try to do everything and in turn we really aren't impacting nobody. So that also
Mm,
helped me improve what I offer to schools, which is these small workshops, small circle workshops, whether it's with your organization. So I pitch to the clubs. So one of the things I do is I pitch to the debate clubs at schools. And the reason why is because I'm a really good negotiator. I have a negotiation background. I used to work in litigation, and so I have a negotiation background. I like to bring that experience to the clubs, and I pitch those clubs in those small groups, and I get better experience overall. So I always say that was my unique experience, but it birthed something really amazing that I was able to put together for these small groups for kids.
awesome. And I see we got a couple of people on the live commenting, Edward and Evolve. And so, yeah, if anybody has questions as we're going along, please put them in the chat. We'll try to answer it if it, time
Yeah.
permitting and flow of the conversation and everything. But we appreciate you all being on. And so, Coach, what surprised you the most when you first started speaking? Like what anything that just was like you thought it was going to be one way but turned out to be another way?
Yes. So, and I'm sure you can relate to this with becoming a business owner. If you have any untapped trauma or issues that you have not worked out, when you start speaking and working with people a lot, that starts to pour out. You start to realize that there is something inside of you that still needs work. And the issue is that when you're healing other people and you haven't fully healed, you bleed on everybody because you have a wound that's just open. And it
Mm,
surprised me how much I discovered about myself and my own healing journey while working with others and helping them to overcome their challenges in the workspace. And so I had to go back to the basics, like in therapy, like having kids or having these leaders or their teams come up to me and say, "Hey, I've been experiencing homelessness," and knowing that I've been there before. And we always say, like on a sales call, don't cry on a sales call. Because if they cry, you can't cry. But here I am at speaking engagements or leadership development, and I'm crying with them because I'm thinking about my own experiences. And so I would say that was probably the biggest aha moment for me is that if you're going to be helping other people heal and evolve along the journey, you have to be doing the work too. Be in therapy, go to church, read, meditate, all those things. I really just learned how to pour into myself better throughout the process.
mm, good stuff. And it's funny because last week I did a couple of keynotes, and I'll be honest,
You be
I
busy.
yeah, it comes and goes. It comes and goes. It's funny how it appears to certain people though, like I'm like on the road all the time, which is not
Hmm.
quite the case, but I've been busier, thank God for that.
Amen.
And
Yeah.
so, the keynote I did last week, I
Hmm.
shared my experience with my oldest daughter, discovering that she had autism and everything, and it's been a challenging situation. And I teared up on stage, and it does happen for me from time to time, but I don't know, me personally, I don't find anything wrong with that because I feel like it offers a level of authenticity to the audience and they can appreciate that. Not that I'm expecting to do that, but sometimes it's just
Yeah.
my own thoughts. And so I
Oh,
don't know.
Mills, I was doing it all the time. That's the problem. I was like crying. I'm like, they connecting, we boo-hooing together. I said, oh no, I gotta go heal.
Right. I hear you. I hear you. Okay. Well, I see Evolve. She actually has they have a question in the
Yeah.
chat. And so They ask, how do you both decide on pricing? Is it based on the marketplace or your own financial goals? And so, Coach, I'm gonna let you go.
Yeah, it's a little bit of both. Definitely start with my own. I have what I call like basic standard goals, which of course covers like my lifestyle, my needs, right? And then I have those goals that are a little beyond that. But then I also look at what's being charged in the marketplace. I think about what's happening politically, when it comes to funding for schools, when it comes to corporations, the grants, different things like that. So that's how I determine my pricing. But I'm going to say this, um pricing is a very personal thing for you. If you don't feel confident in your price when you give it to a decision maker, or when you open up you're ready for negotiation, they will snuff that out. They will know you're not confident, and they will try to get you to go down on your price. And so I have standard pricing that I pretty much open up with, and I leave room for negotiation. I would rather negotiate from a high number than trying to negotiate from the number I really need. So
Mm.
that's my feedback on that question.
Oh man, that's very insightful. Me myself, I probably base it more on the marketplace. Of course, my financial goals play a part in it, but once you get to know your market, then it becomes a lot easier,
Hmm.
because at the end of the day, you want to get the event and you don't want to
Yes.
run people off. And so sometimes if
Very
you're
true.
too high, then people are so afraid that they don't even want to negotiate. But
Yes.
it's something that through experience, though, you kind of get a better feel for. And so, but for
Mhm.
me, yeah, I would say that it's based on the marketplace to answer
Yeah.
that
And
question.
I would also add too, I like to ask decision makers, what have they paid people before?
Oh
Or
yeah.
do they know anyone that's in their district or their corporate or industry that have paid for this type of service and what they've paid? So that way I want to get an idea too, if they even have an idea of what they would pay out for this. Because if they don't know, then it's like, oh, okay, we have better negotiation room. But if they automatically come in and they're thinking, oh, $1,000, our conversation might flow a little bit differently. But I've seen some of those still pay my price, even if they thought it was 1,000 or 2,000.
Right. And one other thing that for me that has really impacted how I do things is just again understanding the organizations. For example, I work with a
Mhm.
lot of nonprofits, and so they have a cutoff
Yeah.
where if it's above a certain amount, then it has to be a competitive process.
Yep.
And so I like to try to keep it right at the amount where it doesn't have to be competitive.
Yep.
And then I'll come back and throw in like, okay, let's purchase my, let's work out something to purchase my books. And so that gets me a little bit more money because that's on a
Yeah.
separate transaction.
Yep.
And so
Oh,
that's kind of how I
you
work.
dropping gems on that one.
Yeah. And that has been very effective, especially this past summer for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Because these school districts have a lot of money. Well, they all, and I won't say a lot of money. Let me take that back. These school districts have different budgets, and based on their budgets, they have money to pay for certain things. So, like he said with the books, you could easily ask them like, what are you guys buying in books or social and emotional learning? If your book has social and emotional learning elements, they can probably purchase 300 books and then you give a keynote for free. So it's like you leverage it and once you understand their budget. So I love that you
Yes.
shared that.
Yes, and you know what? I ran across that when I early on when I started speaking because I was working, I reached out to a local Gear Up program.
Hmm.
And I was just wanting to get on a stage. I just wanted to speak to kids and everything. And so they were like, well, we can't pay you to speak. And I'm like, cool, I'm gonna just get some video and just the experience.
Yeah.
And then the director, like, as we go through the conversation, she was like, you mentioned that you had books. Well, I would like to purchase 300 copies of your book. And I'm like, whoa, 300 copies? That's better than what I would have pitched to speak to them. Especially, it was like I think $10, $12 a copy. And
Yes.
so it really just it opened my eyes to like, wow, this is how you can leverage products like books and
Yeah.
things of that nature. And I know one of the one of the people that you work with a
Hmm.
lot, you coach him, Geo, is really big on that.
He's
He's
really
like
big
the
on
book, what
books.
he calls himself, the book doula.
He's the book doula.
Uh-huh. But listen, people, listen where Geo is getting his coaching from. Right in front of you, right there.
Yes,
So,
Geo is so
yeah.
dope. Or
Hmm.
he even just helping me in my book process, right? Like he's so dope and he understands the marketing element of it. And so I listen, books are a great tool to leverage. It's a great extension of what you already are doing. And so yes, use it to get on the stages.
So, Coach,
Mhm.
what advice would you give to someone who is aspiring to become a professional speaker? Because I know I get hit up in my inbox all the time. People like, "Hey, I see you're speaking in Missouri. How did you get that?" And I know you get it all the time
All
too.
the
And
time.
so what would you tell somebody?
First and foremost, own your story. When I work with speakers, I always tell them to figure out what their niche is, their target audience is, and then put together a story bank based on that niche and target audience. I find that a lot of speakers will get on stage and they'll have 30 minutes, 40 minutes, and they won't know what to say. Just like if they had to give an impactful talk in 5 or 10 minutes, they still wouldn't know what to say. So I would say own your story, know your people, don't chase trends and try to be like everybody else. Find what makes you unique, find what makes you stand out. What I call it, your booking power. What is your booking power? And so just like everyone has a certain power about them, like I'm really good with my words, I'm really good at connecting with people, but what is your booking power? What makes people say yes to you when they're booking you? And then I would say speak wherever you can, make your own speaking opportunities. If you feel like you're not getting enough stages, create your own. This could be you hosting your own workshop and inviting people locally. Get you some content of you speaking, get people in the room, get people to give you testimonials. Really just allow yourself to go out there and speak on stages at every opportunity. Don't be afraid to just go out there. I think a lot of times speakers will sit at home and just record a lot of content on their phone and post it on social media, and they'll be like, yeah, I'm putting out content, but I'm not booking no gigs. That's because no one is seeing you on stage. They're not seeing you talking to people. So find opportunities to get on stage and leverage those. That could be your local chamber of commerce. That could be associations with corporate. I've invested a lot in corporate associations. So like the NBA Association, the Black NBA Association, and they meet up, and that allows me to get the opportunity to go out and speak or stand up in front of them and get pictures and show myself speaking. And then I would say lastly, discipline. Discipline is always better than consistency. Discipline is actually what makes your consistency convert. So I want you guys to be disciplined. Pick in small steps, compound to large movements. A lot of times we want to do something so big, but we don't realize those small, impactful steps will compound to something really big later on. So if it's getting consistent with your content, Mills does this. Like he interviews us and he puts this content out there for his speaker community as well as those who pay him. You should be paying him if you're not already. And he does this because this is helping him with putting out more impactful content for his audience, for his community, for the people that pay him. That's what discipline looks like and showing up consistently looks like. So create consistency. And then also collaboration and partnerships. Don't just slide in people DMs asking them for something. Present me with something. Somebody took me, let me say this. Somebody took me to my favorite restaurant and paid for everything. First off, Rocky love food and Rocky food is expensive. Took me to my favorite restaurant, fed me. We sat up there and talked about business for probably 3 hours. I had leftovers for days. And guess what? They knew what to do in order to get what they needed. I'm telling you, don't just slide in people DMs with nothing. Don't be empty-handed. So I just had to add that in.
Hmm. Yes, please don't slide in people's DMs empty-handed. But Rocky, the thing I found is that if people that are doing that, oftentimes they're not invested in it.
They're
Yeah.
not very serious. They're not very
Hmm.
serious. That's why I tell people, if you are serious, take me out to dinner. And this is where I want to go. Because the moment they look at the menu and the prices, I'm gonna know if they're even somewhat serious. I'm not going to McDonald's or Chick-fil-A, y'all. I'm just letting y'all know.
Good stuff. And so, Rocky, you mentioned that you are good with words.
Hmm.
And so this kind of takes me to the next question. What is unique about you? What makes you different than other speakers? Because a lot of speakers will be like, "Oh, I love to talk, and
Yeah.
I'm gifted with just kind of going off the dome." And so, what makes you different?
I love this question. I love it now more than ever because when you know your God-given purpose and you understand the work that you're doing, it all starts to connect, right? And so I know my spiritual gift is exhortation, whether I'm writing it or I'm speaking it. I know that my spiritual gift is exhortation. What I learned in becoming a speaker, a coach, or a consultant is that the best way to leverage this gift is to have a framework, is to have a method. And so I have a methodology that I use whenever I'm speaking anywhere. It's a 4P method. And the foundation of it is people. I have this unique ability to connect with any and every person in the room, no matter how you look or
Hmm.
what you've been through. And I have been in rooms of 120, I've been in rooms of 300, and I can get people to cry. And I don't even try. It's because I am a people connector. I know that when people are in alignment, they do their best work. You speak better, you show up better, your business feels better, your family they're better because of you. And so that's what really makes me unique. I'm very passionate about people. And I built my method and my framework, which has results to showcase that. So it's one thing to have a method, to live by it, but then to showcase the results. That's what makes me unique. And let me add this because this is also like part of that uniqueness. My IP is protected. I have trademarks and copyrights. So I'm sensitive about my ish, man.
Mm.
So I have things protected to showcase what really makes me unique. It's not one thing that I get on stage and I just talk about it. It's protected no matter where I go. That's an expert move. That's an authority move. And so I would say to any speaker, what's your authority move? What's your expert move? What really makes you unique and authentic is what you created and what people know you by. And so I think that's just what makes me unique.
Good, 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 good. One of the things I like to tell speakers, I've been saying it a lot lately, is that if it's solely about you giving information as a
Hmm.
speaker, people can go and get that anywhere.
Anywhere.
It's about the charisma that we bring to the message. That's why people will pay you
Yep.
as opposed to going and get it off of ChatGPT,
Yep.
Google, or whatever else. Because again, information is easy to access nowadays, but it's what you bring to that message. And
Yes.
so I'm just loving what you're saying. And
Yeah.
so to kind of piggyback on some of the things you mentioned, when speakers get into the game, they have these ideas about how it's supposed to work and everything. And so, what are some common misconceptions that people have about the speaking industry that you like to debunk? And have you in particular maybe had instances where you worked with speakers that you kind of had to get them in line, so to speak?
Yeah. Yeah. So I'll first just kind of share working with first let me share this part. People think it's glamorous. They see you get on stage, they see you talk, and they be like, "Oh, I want that." We were just talking about how people see us busy and they think we're busy all the time, but they don't see the in between. They don't see the flights being delayed. They don't see you having to get up super early to get to an event. They don't see your car being delayed. They
Whew,
don't see your tech breaking
preach.
down. They don't see your kids saying to you, "You leaving again?" Right? Like they don't see those things. They think it's really glamorous. They'll see the stage. They don't see all the follow-up that takes place afterwards because once you speak, now you have to follow up and you got to do all the things. You have a system and things you have to put in place for it. So when people come to me, they be like, "Yeah, I want to make 525K and all this." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well, what's your message? What's your signature talk?" I can help them with bullying. Okay, I can help them with bullying too if I put my mind to it. What's signature about you, right? And so people see the glamorous part of it and they appeal to that, but a lot of speakers aren't ready for the work. they aren't ready for the work that it takes to put into it. So when I've worked with, people like Odell, I work with people like Logan with YB Normal. We help to build out systems like the marketing. What does that really look like? A lot of times we don't have systems in place to support us before, during, and after an event. And if you don't have that system in place, you're going to run yourself ragged. The burnout that you're helping people with is now the burnout that you're struggling with. And I tell people, don't put yourself in that position. So I think a lot of people just see the glamorous side of it and they think it's so easy because they see us speaking. But man, they don't see like you having to talk to the decision maker like, hey, did you book my flight? Oh, I thought you was booking your flight. What? You, know, like there's things that happen that people don't recognize. And I just want to say to y'all, like, if you want to become a speaker, you have to be serious about the impact and the influence way before you start worrying about the money. Because I promise you, the money will come. I want my money too, but you have to be serious about the impact and the influence because that's what's going to get you through those hard moments of having to prepare your keynote, having, oh, let's not even talk about doing the same keynote maybe five different ways because you can't use spiritual talk or God talk in one audience, but you can use it in another audience.
Mm.
A lot of people aren't ready for that.
Yeah, you definitely have to tweak your message
Mhm.
each time that you step out on stage, even if the audiences are similar, because it,
Mhm.
it may be in a different location or whatever else, or just the organization. And so again, these are all just great
People
nuggets
don't
of
even want to
wisdom.
research the audience, Mills.
Oh yeah. I mean, I know, and that's one thing that I realized early on is that hey, make sure you understand your audience and make sure you understand what the decision maker wants more than anything else.
Yes.
Because I experienced that probably, first year speaking. I spoke at a middle school. I thought I did well, and so
Come back.
I shared the information with a prospect because they're like, "Hey, we want a reference," and then I hear back from the prospect, and they said, "Oh, these people are talking, throwing shade at you." I'm like, "What?" Because I thought I did good. And so I learned a lesson right there. I'm like, that is not happening again. That
Yes.
is not going to happen again. And so I created a list of questions just to make sure that I'm on the same page
Yeah.
with decision makers because
Yeah.
that is the worst thing. You don't want to think you've done well and then come to find out, again, they're throwing shade at you. And so you
They
got to
don't need
make
now
sure
it
that
ain't gonna even bring you back.
yeah. So you got to make sure that you're very clear on what the decision maker wants.
Mhm.
And so, kind of along those lines, that's a negative experience that I had as a speaker. And so, do you have any, I guess, negative experiences where you feel like, oh, that talk didn't land, or we just weren't, we just weren't in alignment.
Man, I would say when I first started earlier on, is I developed talks based on what I wanted or what I wanted to say. So my first talk was called C'est la vie. It means basically in French, it means it is what it is.
Hmm.
And I thought it was so cool and unique because I'm from New Orleans. I did something in French. It was C'est la vie. I was like, yes, like I put the talk together and it was just like perfect in my eyes, right? And then afterwards, I of course had them do a survey and no one was taking the survey. And I was just like, why is nobody taking my survey? Like, I know this talk was fire. And I reached out to the decision maker. He's like, okay, I'll send it out and ask them to take the survey. Well, come to find out, this room, there was a couple people in there that felt offended that I was using something that was French. And due to their familiar experiences with the French in Europe, it was traumatizing for them. So they had already then talked to everybody in this training about their experience. And people felt like they didn't want to give me feedback because I was nice, but it seemed like I was unaware. That was probably the talk that really impacted me the most, where it said to me, I have to do the research. I have to make sure I'm engaging with people. I can't just create a talk for me. I have to create the talk for the people that I'm actually talking for. The transformation is for them. it's not for me, right? And so even though that talk now is still my signature talk, it's called Conquer from Within, but it's completely different. It's not for me, it's for the people that need to hear it. And just like you said, we tweak it every time, every audience that we get in front of, but not doing the research and understanding like some of the culture issues on the team, the engagement concerns on the team. That was probably my worst talk ever.
Mm.
And they didn't want to do my survey because they were like, "You are nice, but we don't want to tell you."
Now, do you utilize Talkadot?
I do now, yes.
Hmm.
When I first my first presentation was in 2014.
Hmm.
So I don't even think I even knew of anything called Talkadot at that
Right.
time. I use it now for sure, and I have my own systems in place for testimonials too. But man, when I tell you no one took it, I was like, this ain't right. This ain't right.
Mhm. Yeah, that feedback is very important. So, I know you described how you handled that situation, but how
Yeah.
do you handle, I guess, the positive feedback? Like even when you get positive feedback, are you still looking to tweak some things, or
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on that?
I treat feedback as fuel. Um, Positive feedback always confirms alignment. And I tell people that all the time. Like the positive feedback always confirms alignment to keep doing the things that you are doing. Constructive feedback really sharpens me as a speaker because I don't take anything personally. I think that's the number one thing you have to realize as a speaker. You can't take anything personally. It's easy to, and sometimes you should, but I don't take anything personally. And if it's just an opinion, I let it go. Especially
Hmm.
if it's just an opinion that won't affect my business, the people that I work with, my clients, the people I serve. If it's just an opinion, I decide to let it go because not every voice is going to carry equal weight to the transformation that I'm providing, but every voice can teach me something. And so that's how I take feedback, especially constructive feedback. I always want to be better as a speaker. I'm highly coachable. I do not think that I know everything and I know every way to deliver it. So I'm always trying to look for ways that I can improve. And that's why feedback and testimonials, meeting with my decision makers is so important because it allows me to know like how is things before I spoke? How is things during? How are things after? So that way me and my team can consistently improve.
You talk about meeting afterwards, and I'll be honest, one challenge that I've experienced is kind of where it seems like after I'm done, people are hard to get in touch with. They claim that they enjoyed the presentation, and
Mhm.
I look at my talk doc and everything, and it looks fantastic. And the leadership, I send them a thank you email or whatever else, and they're like, "Thank you for coming out." But it's really difficult to continue on. It's almost like they use you and they're done with you. And so, what are your insights on that?
Yeah, I have a process in place and it starts way before I even speak. And I tell them straight up, look, part of what makes this engagement work is the work we do before, what we do during, and then after. So I'm going to need to meet with you maybe for about 30 minutes just to kind of talk about the engagement. If you would like, we can do it while I'm on site. I prefer if it's a few days afterwards because now things have settled. But I always make sure that they understand what my process and my system is in order to collect that feedback. Everything is embedded into it. When I worked with YB Normal, we made sure that every piece of the process had that embedded. So we're gonna meet after. We're gonna meet after. We're gonna meet every time they got something from us. It was we're gonna meet after. What dates work for you? Here are the dates that work for us. Let's put something on the calendar before we speak. And so having that always front of mind and in your process and in your system actually makes it easier for people to want to talk to you because they're already thinking about it. So I would say to anyone, make sure that it's always a point. Like have your points of success for you when you're putting together your system, and that's how I would implement and get more feedback.
Okay, awesome, awesome. And so we're getting close to the end, and I
Yeah.
mean, this has just been fantastic. And so, what do you have coming up on the horizon?
Oh man, I have done a lot this year to streamline my businesses, and so I launched my book. I have a passion of mine launching my book, working with Geo. It's called The Root She Couldn't Kill. It is about healing from maternal trauma and growing a closer relationship with God. And so I'm doing work. I'm getting ready to launch a tour for that. Of course, with Conquer Your Ish, we are continuing to do our speaking. We have a lot of workshops with schools, with corporations coming up. So, and we're also launching more products, more physical products. So, books, journals, merchandise, things like that. And then what I'm absolutely most passionate about is AI. A lot of people don't know, but I am a certified prompt engineer. That is just a big word for I spent a lot of money for a certification that I don't use properly. Um, and so I love teaching AI to everyday people. So people like you, people like speakers, coaches, consultants, how to really use it in their business, not just to write content. I'm not the AI queen, but I probably am the AI goddess at this point. But I do, those are probably the three things that I'm most excited about, but just more speaking engagements. I think one of the things that I did a disservice to myself, and hopefully I'm speaking to somebody else when I say this, is that I've been speaking for a long time, but I don't have a lot of content to show it. So, one of my goals this year and next year is just to get all the content, get all of that out into my platforms on my website because I focus so much on everybody else's business. While I was speaking and serving, I wasn't focusing on myself. So, I really want to make sure that I'm putting out the content and leveraging those things. So, that's really what I'm working on right now.
Okay, awesome, man. Sounds good.
I'm busy.
Yeah.
And I'm managing
Mhm.
23 AI agents.
Wow. Oof. So, Rocky, if somebody wanted to work with you, because obviously you're very accomplished, and I know a number of the people that you have worked with, and it definitely speaks to the fact that you know what you're talking about. And so, yes, if a speaker is listening in and they wanted to work with you, how can they go about doing that?
That's a great question. I think the most, no, I know the most impactful way is going to be through my AI products. I created a speaker suite, a speaker GPT suite specifically for speakers based on my experience as well as the experience of working with others. That's probably the number one thing I would recommend. Outside of that, Conquer AI is a course that it's a living course. Basically, there's a new workshop every month that you can access to help you grow in your business. And I always tell people if you are looking to just book like a pick my brain call, that's absolutely something you can do. But I no longer offer coaching and consulting services on a long term since I am focusing more on my business. I would say if you guys are looking to grow in your speaker business outside of just the AI piece, Mills has an amazing membership program. I hear nothing but great things about it. I hear that they're learning, they're leveraging, they're also reaching out to decision makers. So I would say that is probably the best option for you. But if you want AI, I got you. And I'll drop the links too.
Well, I appreciate the shout out.
Oh man, look, I pay attention. Look, and
Uh,
and anybody on this live will know I do not speak on anybody. I pay attention, I listen, I keep my ears to the streets, and I like being able to say, "Hey, I don't do this, but this is somebody I trust you with." And so I just pay attention and I've noticed what you've been doing.
thank you, thank you. And so, folks, we're about to wrap this up. We've had Coach Rocky. She's given us some incredible wisdom. And so you can reach out to her for a call and she'll give you a little bit more. However, just listening to this video today, man, I mean, you should be able to walk away with something that can help you improve your speaking business. And so, Coach Rocky, we thank you so much for coming on the speaker spotlight.
Absolutely. Thank
And
you so much
my
for
my
having me.
fellow speaker from Louisiana.
Do
See,
you hear me?
I'm from Louisiana, but
Brad,
I'm from the country, Ville Platte, little town in
that
Lafayette area.
that is a very small town.
Yes, very small, wild town. I'm
Yes,
put that
yes.
there.
Okay.
But I'm living in Austin now. I live in Austin.
Gotcha.
So
Gotcha. Well,
yeah.
no, thank you so
hmm
much. Thank you for all the work that you're doing to help speakers. I find that a lot of times you guys don't always get your flowers, and I just want to give you your virtual flowers. Thank you for all the work that you're doing. It's definitely an act of service to be in this capacity. So just thank you.
All right. Well, I appreciate you coming on. Till next time, y'all take care.
Bye, y'all.